Hi all, in this video I will be discussing all those questions that was asked to me on EPAM Java interview, and these questions are the round 2 questions and I got clear the round 2 and round 3 as well. So there are total 18 questions that was asked to me, and I will discussing all those questions, and I have provided the solutions in MD file as well. So this video is specifically for someone who is preparing for Java interview, and it is for like 3 to 8 years of experience candidate, and even if you are freshers then it is recommended to go through the videos as well. So earlier I have created one round 1 videos where I got like lot of comments to create the round 2 videos as well. So today I am creating that. So let's get started with the video. So before going ahead with the video, I request you to subscribe the Deep Developer channel, because here I make videos on Java, Spring Boot, microservices, API development and company wise interview questions. So you can visit this playlist as well, where this Java interview crack company wise, where all the company wise interview questions I have discussed, and it is highly recommended to go the round 1 videos where I have discussed all the exact questions that was asked to me, and in these videos also I will be discuss exact 18 questions that was asked to me in round 2 interview. So let's get start with the video. So basically round 1 videos or the round 1 interview is mostly based on the Java, Spring Boot, and this round 2 videos they mostly asked on microservices, design patterns, and different like SQL queries. So and the Kafka, Jenkins. So let's get start with our first questions. So they have asked me about describe about yourself and your work. So basically you can introduce yourself and you can provide the key points. So for every question you can receive this click on this MD file, you will redirect it to the MD files, and where the solutions is provided. So you can start as it's and for the experienced developer, it is better to start with your current roles and the experience, not like you are BTech graduate or the computer science graduates. So you can just start with your total year of experience, then you have contributed on the microservice architectures and scalable the design. You have hands-on experience building on distributed system and implementing design patterns. So you can highlight this kind of key factors, like you have used Kafka, you have used CI/CD pipelines, you have implemented circuit breakers. So this will matter very much to the interviewer to evaluate you based on the your experience. Let's move to the next questions. Mostly it's a microservice based questions. So they ask like what are the benefit of microservices. So you can click on this benefit of microservices files. So basically you can no need to download this particular repo. You can go to this repo for any and for the any answers you can just click on this MD file and you can read from this repo, and it is ready to say answer to the interviewer. So let's continue. So benefit of microservices is that start with explaining the microservice means and the key benefits, and what is the issue if we use the monolithic architectures. So microservice is basically an architecture style that structure and applications as an collection of loosely coupled independent deployable service that communicate over the network. Here the benefits like scalability. So if we have monolithics and you want to convert to the microservice, so you can convert to the different services. So doing that scale only the service that needs scaling. It is an independent deployment. So microservice means if we have different services, you can deploy independently without affecting the other services. The technology diversity, for example, you have the user services, payment services and the order services. So in the user services you can use the one DB. On the payment services you can other use the other DB, or in the user service you can use one programming languages and other on the different programming languages. So it's a fault isolations. That team autonomy means like a team can work independently on the different services. so easy for maintenance and update, because it's a small service, so it will be very easy to figure out the bugs and understand and do the troubleshooting. So it is for the better performance and the easier experimentation. So and you can check this payment like services. So why I am saying this payment like services, so each and every example I will try to relate with Paytm payment like service only. You will get to know why I'm trying to relate this. So let's move to the next questions. So what is the difference between monolithic and microservice architectures? So you can try to differentiate those with an basic example as well. So the interviewer will get to know you have like major understanding on this kind of designs. So in the architecture, so in the monolithic, it's an one single code base will be there, and in the microservice we'll be using multiple independent service or the multiple independent code. So it's while during the deployment, it is we are deploying the entire applications, and even in the microservices we are deploying the small like separate application and the separately. Like during the scaling, we need to scale the whole application, and here we need to scale the individual services. In the technology wise, we can use one only need to use one tech stack. If you are using Java, you need to use whole the services Java, and in the microservice you can on service you can use Java, other services you can use Python. So that's mean the polyglot. So we'll come to this concept polyglot in within 1 to 4 5 minutes. So database like same, one one database will be shared across the monolithic architecture, means across the code base. And in case the microservice, we can have like different code base, and during the failures, it is an if it's one fails, like full services will be failing. And here if one service fail, other services will not be impacted. So development is very tightly coupled teams, and here independent teams can work on the microservices. So it is an complexity is very less, because we have everything in a single unit or the single structure. Here complexity on designing it's little bit difficult. You can tell like you can take the examples like for each and every functionality and try to explain them. Like if we have like user, a shop, and if we have like order, if we have the payments. So here how we are using in the monolithic architectures and the microservices, we are separating user service, order service, and the payment service, and these are the different advantages and the disadvantages, and when to use what. If they ask, then you can tell like when the application is very small and there will be no scaling requirement in futures, then that time we can use monolithics architectures. In the microservice architecture is like for the large kind of applications, there will be a lot of features coming up in the futures, and then it's a large team, and there will be in future like a lot of customer will be using that, then you can use the microservice based architectures. Here are the real kind of example you can relate. So let's move to the next questions. What is circuit breaker? So circuit breakers means like prevents cascading failures by stopping a request to a failing service and allowing it times to recover. So for example, a service is calling to the service B, and for example service B is failing, and service A will wait for the response, and S thread will be exhausted, and finally like A will fail, then C will fail, and D will fail, like that. Everything will be failed, and it will take a lot of time. So in the circuit breaker, we can use a circuit breaker in the service A. So for example, if B is failing, then fails without waiting, so there will be no waiting times, and we should return one fallback response as well. Here are the different state of circuit breaker. You can go through closed, open state, half open state, and you can give some example as well. So let's move to the next questions. What is SAGA patterns? So if you are still watching the video, I would request to please like the video and put on the comments like which companies you are preparing for, and let me know if you want any specific topic, videos on the specific topic. So SAGA pattern is pattern for managing distributed transaction in the microservices. So for example, in a monolithic system, we have like payment service, order service, and inventory in one single unit, right? So if any of the save operation is failed, then whole process will be failed and everything will be rolled back. But in the microservice, we are using the different database, right? So here the ACID principle will not work in the database. So what we need to do, we need to use different approaches, like we have choreography approaches and we have like orchestration approaches. So the service communicate through events and each service listen to the event and publish a new event. So this is called the like choreography event driven architectures. And in the orchestration is the centralized architectures. A centralized orchestration directs each services what to do what. Like for example, it orders services, payment services, inventory services, notification services are there. So order service will create the order, when move to the payment service, process the payments, and the if it is success, then it will call the inventory services. So like that. Next, move to the next questions. How to scale a microservices? Mostly we have discussed a little bit on that, but let's go more on these questions. This scaling means the strategies to handle increased load and improve the performance in the microservice architectures. So basically, when we are doing, we are just increasing the RAM size or the CPU size, which we take it as an scaling. It will be then expensive and limited by the hardware selling and like downtime need for upgrades. So when we need to use for the low traffic scenarios, for the temporary solutions, and we can use like horizontal scaling as well. So if we have one services, then we can like create an like 3 instance 4 instance of any instance of the services. So it is an cost effective scaling and better resilience. And disadvantage is that it is network will be overhead, and when to use for the high traffic services, then we have different scaling strategies are like load balancing, caching. Next, move to the like a design pattern related question, then we will be going ahead with the system design questions. So in the design patterns, they have asked me like what is behavioral design patterns and different type of design patterns. So first let's see what are the different type of design patterns, then we will see what are the behavioral design patterns. So design patterns are like reusable solution to common problem in a like software designs. There are three type of design patterns are there. One is creational patterns, other is structural patterns, and third one is the behavioral patterns. So in the creational patterns, a concern with object creation mechanism. We have singleton, we have factory, we have builder, we have prototype. For example, in the singleton design patterns, ensure only one instance of the class will be created, and use case it's for like database connections, logger. And structural patterns like concern with the object composition, creating new functionalities. Like for example, we have a decorator structure patterns. So add a new functionality to the object dynamically. So for example, adding features, it's just an example, adding features to coffee, like we are adding and the sugar, milk, like that. Next, what is the behavioral patterns? The concern with object collaboration and responsibility distributions. So you can get more details on this like strategy, observer, commands. Like in the observer, notify multiple object about the state changes, and use case we can use in event listener, producer subscriber problems. So chain of responsibilities like passes request along a chain of handler, like logger level authentication filters. This what is solid principles, then we will be understanding what is cap theorem, polyglot persistence, and next we will design what the Paytm services. And what is solid principle? So solid principle means we have the five different functionalities or the design principle we mainly use to for more maintainable, scalable, and testable applications. So S stand for single responsibility principle, and O for open closed, L for list scope substitution, and I for interface segregation, and D for dependency inversion. So what does it means? You can try to explain like each one with a simple example. Like single responsibility principle means a class should have only one reason to change. You can try to give an example. We have open and closed principle, like software entities should be open for extension but closed for modifications. So next example is that list of substitution principle, like subclasses must be substitutable for their base classes without breaking the functionality. So you can try to see this example as well. Then I for interface segregation principle, a client should not be forced to implement the interface they don't use. And last one is dependency inversion principle, like high level module should not depend upon low level module, both should depend on the abstractions. You can tell the benefits of following the solid principle, as I mentioned, like easier to understand and the modify code, can be tested component independently, and easy to add new features. Let's move to the next questions. What is cap theorem? It's the fundamental theorem about a distributed system. Like you can pick two only out of any three properties. So we have consistency, we have availability, and we have partition tolerance. So consistency means all node see the same data at the same time, no stale data. So for example, if a node is accessing object balance of 100, and node 3 2 3 4 immediately see that balanced 100. So there will be no node which is like returning that old values. So availability means system is always responsive and request never falls, and always get a response. So it's 100 time up. So for example, if node 1 or 2 is down, node 3 is still responsive, and if the user hit, then it will be going to node 3. And partition tolerance, the system continues operating even when the network partition occurs. So means we have like node 1, node 2, node 3, like all can talk to each other. Like during the network partitions, node 1, node 2 will be like independent, and node 3 and 4, you see we have using this real world Paytm-like platform. So let's move to the next questions. What is polyglot persistence? So polyglot means using multiple database and the data storage technology in a single applications, and each optimized for the specific use case. So for example, during the monolithic architectures, we are using only one database for user data, for order data, for the session, cache, and any kind of data. So it is not every kind of data is not will be fitted for MySQL database. So we are using polyglot persistent solution. So for example, MySQL will be used for the user services, PostgreSQL will be used for the transaction services, and the orders services will be using the MongoDB. Like for the graphical kind of uses, we can use Neo4j. Let's move to the next questions. Design a Paytm services. So it is mostly it is as this video is for like majorly experienced developer. They for me they asked me like design a Paytm kind of services. So for that you need to understand the requirement or discuss the requirement on functionality requirement and the non-functional requirement. Then you need to design the architectures, you need to design the services, you need to design the database, and you need to design other like data flow and handling the failures. So you can discuss everything one by one with discussing with your interviewer as well. So for this specific example, you can use like user management, and this user management different functionality like user registrations, authentication, KYC verification, profile management. So and the non-functional requirement, you can use performance, you can use availability, discuss the scalability to handle how many transactions in per day. Then you can discuss like high level architectural designs, creating the different instances using the different database. Then you can discuss like services and features and the database, different endpoint, and the database structures as well. Next, move to the next questions. It is regarding the database, and then the few questions asked regarding the tools. They will ask you like write an SQL query to find the third highest salary, and they ask me about also like difference between MongoDB and the MySQL, why MongoDB is better than MySQL. So to find a third highest salary, so you can use this query, select distinct salary from employee, 3 for the third highest salary, and select count distinct salary or employee E2 greater than E1. Here we have like 3 approaches. This is the first approach, this is the second solution using the limit and offsets. So I have used this solution, that's why I asked what does it one means in your solution, and you can discuss like which approach is better. So you can go to this particular document as well. Let's move to the next questions, why MongoDB is better than MySQL. So not every case like MongoDB will be better than the MySQL, but if they are asking, you can try to relate on e-commerce product scenarios. Like we have like product catalog, where the problem with the MySQL is that like different product has a different attributes, like electronics, clothing, booking. Books have like author, pages, ISBN number. Clothing has size, color, materials. Electronics have brand, model, specification. So if you create one sample like product tables, like in most of the cases we need to fit the null, which will be wasted. For example, in case of the book, we need to mention this model, size, that should be as null, where the we are using like spaces, and which is waste for us. So on that case we can use MongoDB based approach. So if you see the specifications, brand, so and if you go to the down, you have like a real-time difference comparison between the MySQL and the MongoDB. You can try to explain this to your interviewer. Next, they ask me like, do you know Kafka or not, and what does the use case of the Jenkins. So Kafka is a distributed streaming platform that uses like publisher subscriber to stream the record, and it stores the record in a fault tolerant way, process the stream of record as they occurs. Like key concept you can discuss about the topics, producer, consumer, partitions, and you can try to relate with some example as well. Then they asked me like the Jenkins is an open source automation server used for building, testing, deployment, and monitoring. So you can try to relate it with your current project, how they are using Jenkins. Tell like it's how this actually working when the developer pushes this code, how the GitHub webhook triggers the Jenkins, how the checkout then builds, test, analyze the code using the Sonar cubes, then it's packaged, then it do the deployment, everything. So you can read this document and try to explain them as well. So that's all about the video. So if you want me to create a video on round 3 and how I have cleared this APM interview, so let me know in the comment section, and all the best for your interview.